I just wanted to point out that Chazal tell us that a person needs to say that the world was created, Hashem created the world, whereas the animals, there were many animals, but a person was created Yechidi, they were created alone. Hashem created a person, Adam Harishon, by himself, where the Chava was originally part of Adam, but he was created as one entity. And the Gemara tells us that the reason for that is so that a person should say, Bishvili Nivra Olam. The entire world was worth it just for me. To think about the entire, not Chas v'Sholem in a haughty sense, but to recognize the greatness that we have inherent within us, the greatness of what a moment of life in this world is, that the entire creation is worth one person's life. Bishvili Nivra Ha'olam. Everything in this world and in all the worlds, the spiritual world and the world outside of our world, the galaxies, everything, the Shemayim Ushmei HaShemayim is worth Bishvili, it's worth it for me. What Rabbi Krohn mentioned is on our website is a word from Moshe Feinstein where he writes in one of his tshuvas, he says, life is worth it because kol rega, every second of life is kona nitzchi, is buys eternity. The value of life is inestimable. We can't possibly figure out what the value of life is. But a moment of life in this world can purchase eternal zechuyot, eternity, olam haba, it doesn't end. That is the power of a moment of life. And what I often point out when I speak particularly to older people, and particularly when you're dealing about life that isn't so easy, is that we wake up every morning and what is the first thing that a person says? Moda'ani lefanecha, you wake up and you give thanks to the Ribono Shalom. Now, what is the thanks? Of course, we have so much to thank the Ribono Shalom for. But what do we say? We don't thank him for our wealth, for the beautiful home we live in, for our families, for anything. Shehechezarta bi nishmasi, I have a neshama, one more day, I am still alive. That is the moda'ani that we say in the morning, and as I say, it is not meant to depress us. It's meant to invigorate us. It's meant to give us an appreciation for life, no matter what the challenges are, to be able to say, moda'ani lefanecha shehechzarta bi nishmasi. Because if you recognize that life is kona nitzchi, b'chol rega, buys eternity, it's a ticket to eternity. Every moment of life that is lived appropriately is a ticket to eternity. And the more difficult life gets, that is a greater ticket and a more powerful ticket. Because as Chazal tell us, Pam b'tzar, mimea pa'am shalo b'tzar. When we're living life that's difficult, and we accept it as this is what the Ribono Shalom wants for me today, that life is so much greater than the life when everything's going great. It's when things are difficult that the value of life becomes that much more valuable. And this is so far from the culture in which we live, where life is defined not by its sanctity, not by its value, not by what we can accomplish for a different world, but how enjoyable it is at the moment. It's for that ticket that we talked about that was left behind that should not have been bought. That's how the world defines life. We define life very differently. And it's interesting that yesterday we said Hallel, and David HaMelech expresses himself, Lo amus ki yechye va'asaper maseh ko. Let me not die, let me live, and speak of the greatness of Hashem. Yasar Yisrani ko. Even if I have Yisurim, even if life is not difficult, I accept that. I thank you, Lo amus ki yechye. Because when you are living life, just the fact that we are here, that we are at Tselem Elokim, that we are able to be there, that is the greatest expression of Masei Kov, the godless of Hashem. Whether it's the fact that we're here because we can't walk, like Rabbi Krohn pointed out, what an unbelievable deher, that Hashem can give us difficulties so that we can't walk, but give us extended life. Just the fact that we are here, Chazal tell us that a person who is a goses, a person who's on their last breath, if you close their eyes and their life ends a split second earlier, that is considered shvichas damim, that's ritzicha, that's murder. If we take a life, what is the value of this life of a goses? That's shvichas damim. Life, no matter what the life might be, has the power of ki b'tzelem Elokim asa adam. We reflect the tzelem Elokim, we reflect the greatness of Hashem. And we need to work on that to understand the value of life. And therefore, when life becomes more difficult, it becomes more powerful. I'll tell over a story because it seems like stories is expected today, but I will not be marich after this. We'll go into the rest of our program. But our Rosh Yeshiva Zichron Levracha Rav Henoch Leibowitz, there was a case of someone in our yeshiva community, this goes back many years, got sick at a very young age. They had not yet married off any of their children. They had a large mishpacha. And they fought this machla for a number of years. But then at the very end of their life, this was a person who was mekabel, who accepted their lot absolutely with the greatest faith and never questioned anything. But at the end of their life, they were in a coma. And there was a shaila in halacha, whether they should begin a new protocol of medication for a new infection that this person developed. And the Rosh Yeshiva the shaila came to the Rosh Yeshiva. The Rosh Yeshiva would not paskin the shaila. He sent the family to one of the Gedolei HaPoskim, and the psak was that they do not have to begin a new protocol of medication. Okay? And the Rosh Yeshiva received the psak, and these were his words. He said, I am mekabel the psak. I accept it. However, I want you to know, the person who told me this story was Rabbi Mordechai Trapper Zichron Levracha, who was very close to Rosh Yeshiva. He was there. The Rosh Yeshiva said, I want you to know that I cannot identify with that psak. This is the psak of a Gadol Ador. He says, but who can put a value on what a moment of life under these conditions? The person's in a coma, but we don't know. They might have yet kissed the lulav, like we heard before. Who knows what they could have accomplished in their state? We don't know the consciousness, and I could tell you stories upon stories of people who appeared not to be conscious, but who are conscious on a rather sophisticated level. The idea is that life is life. And while there is within halacha a time to say, I don't necessarily want to have to suffer, and while we daven every day, every time we bench, we ask that we should never have to come on to anyone. This is a tefillah that we ask. But when a person is in a situation where they have to be in that situation, then we have to realize that that life has tremendous value. I remember hearing once from Rabbi Krohn, he says, nowadays this tefillah of Nal Tatzvichenu Lolide Matnas Basav Adam has a whole new definition. We don't want transfusions. We don't want organ transplants. We don't want basar v'adam in the very literal sense. We don't want to have to come on to those type of matanos. But the fact is that if chas v'shalom that is our lot, then we have to recognize that a wheelchair can be the biggest gift. And we have to recognize that life, even when it's lived at the most uncomfortable and difficult level, Yasor Yisrani Kov Lamoves Lo Nisonani. A person has a right to say, I don't want it. And we're going to talk about that when we talk about filling out the halachic living will. And for those out there who are going to be giving them out, I think you can begin doing so. But the point is that we need to recognize that life has a value just because it's life. And when it's more difficult, It doesn't necessarily mean that we have a right to say, stop, I don't want to live anymore. It struck me just literally a couple of days ago that when we say in davening, Modim anachnu loch, and we say, Al chayenu hamisurim biyadecha, we teach it to mean, we thank you, Ribbon Hashem, for the life that is in your hands. Okay? And therefore you gave us so much life, therefore we thank you. I think part of that modim is we're saying, Modim anachnu loch, we're thanking you, Hashem, that life is in your hands, not in the hands of the people around us, not in the hands of the people in our culture, not in the hand of those people who may not appreciate what life's value is. We leave it completely in your hands, and that's what we give thanks to you, that ultimately you are the one that holds that mafteach, that holds that key to life and death. And therefore, we need to take responsibility. We need to take the time to fill out this living will. I will tell you also that it is kedai for those who are not here, for you to take living wills for others or encourage them to visit our website and to download those living wills. And we'll talk about them as we go through the process. But understand that every moment of life has tremendous value. We cannot make decisions ourselves necessarily for what is life and what is not life. We need the Torah to define it. It has to be chayenu hamisurim yadecha. And without further ado, we're going to begin the program of filling in those living wills.